The band is back today. It's Pioneer Day, so you may be listening to this on Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. For those of you outside of Utah, you're wondering, what the heck is Pioneer Day? I'm not explaining. You'll just have to learn your own. We'll run through a bunch of news and notes on a shortened tip-off today. Hope you're well. Got a bunch of little tiny news and notes. I think that's kind of what we'll get this time of year. Every now and then projects will come up that I work on that we bring your direction. I think that's kind of going to be the approach. Somebody asked the other day what these are. They're just little cups that have this kind of funny little thing. We are happy to serve you. And do I have my own coffee machine? Oh, yeah, I do. That's what we do here every morning. We hang out and I have a coffee. You have whatever you may have in the morning. For all I know, you load it up first thing in the morning, baby. Many of you may be finishing your day of work, so you do load it up. So whatever it might be, I hope you're well. And for in Utah, it's a state holiday. It's the day the Mormons basically, this is the place, I guess, would be the way. Or it's one big, huge parade for Karl Malone. That's a great legendary story. This is Karl Malone's birthday, and his first time here in Pioneer Day, he thought they were having a parade for him. It's also Barry Bonds' birthday, just kind of on interesting personalities that were born on the same day. So there. It's my son's birthday tomorrow. I have nothing to do with anything. So anyway, happy birthday to the mailman. He's 50-plus years old today. Can you believe that? He's 51 years old. I had this thought the other day. Actually, yesterday I met somebody. I was chatting with them. They were 32 years old, and it dawned on me that if they're 32 years old, we're sitting here in 2014. They were born in 1982. They don't really, I mean, if you take it, 8 or 9, you kind of first remember rooting for a team, maybe 6 or 7. So 8 or, you're first rooting for the Jazz. Let's go with 30 years old. So if you're born in 1984 and you're 30 years old, then your first reference to the Jazz comes in, we'll call it, 1991, 92. And so you get the NBA, your first kind of, as a fan, your first thing is they win. You don't really understand the game a great deal at 6 or 7 years old. And then you end up straight to you're the NBA Finals by the time you're 13. And there's something to be said for why a portion of our fan base that is, probably in their 30s grew up with year after year, Western Conference Finals, Western Conference Semis, Western Conference Semis. The other one that's interesting to me is that that's kind of the last person, anyone who's under the age of 30 for a Jazz fan is, and actually this was kind of, it dawned on me, I was over at, I think it's called Universal Athletic over in Sandy. I think that's Sandy, maybe Midvale, grabbing some softball stuff for my daughter. And this guy, Steve, was great. And he went down to Vegas and saw someone else, and he's probably 20, And I was like, wow, that's an awesome fan because he's 20, which really means he has no reference point, right? He's born in 94. He doesn't remember the Jazz going to the finals. So at this point, it's getting old enough. The mailman being 51, if you're any younger than 30, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. So if you're 25, you were born in 89. You're only 6, 7, 8 years old by the time we hit the finals. You don't really remember it. I mean, you can remember the excitement, but you don't know it. You didn't get it. I mean, I've got a 9-year-old. You could. It can form a fandom, but there's no real memory of that. Pretty interesting how much of our franchise lore and how often, and I said also I would say worth noting, anytime someone kind of references that stuff, you probably should look at their age and be like, okay, this guy actually has, it's all lore. And some of that is painful, I think, for us because, you know, these guys were worth statues and they were amazing and they are Hall of Famers, but they were also human. So they had some games that probably weren't as good as we think and we remember along the way. Go look at some old, playoff box scores, and there's some duds in there that if you didn't live through it, you'd probably don't have the perspective on it. Anyway, that wasn't what I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, and the fact that it's Karl Malone's birthday. Interesting. Kevin Pelton, I did a podcast, part one. I thought he was really good. Kevin and I have known each other for a long time. When I first met him, he was a really smart, socially young, not awkward or anything. He was young, like he was probably 19, 20 years old. And to watch him kind of grow up into this has really been fun. Really proud of him, if I'm allowed to be that. And he was great on the podcast yesterday. Some very interesting comments about the Love deal, which he really makes you kind of believe is a no-brainer for Cleveland. He believes that Nikolai Mirotic, the kid out of Chicago, will be the best rookie this upcoming season. He's not in love with Wiggins or Parker a great deal. I don't know if he did that Mirotic. We'd have part one and part two. I'll post part two later today. I'm not sure. Maybe he didn't say that. So he had a lot of really, really good stuff. It was a fun conversation. I hope you grab a hold of it. I loved the signing of Al-Farouq Aminu yesterday by Dallas. Minimum deal. I like him. He can defend. He can play bigger guys. He can probably, if you've got a good enough team out there, and you need to put him on a 3 or a 4, he probably can handle both. He can handle Durant defensively. He's limited offensively, but good rebounder for his position. I would have loved to acquire him. I'm a little surprised, honestly, that if that's all he's getting paid, that we didn't do something in there to add him to our team. Now, he can't shoot, and we got enough guys who can't shoot. And, John Schumann wrote a really good piece yesterday that over the last 2 seasons, three-point shooting has gone from 22.2% of your shots to 26%. So from 2007-8 to 11-12, we were 22% of shots were threes, and then in 24% of them, 26% of them last season. Huge jump. Frankly, if you've been listening to this, or even go all the way back to Tom Nasalki and I when we did the afternoon drive show together, we've been way ahead of this curve. It also is, if you shoot threes, you win. Not if you make threes, but if you shoot threes. To some extent, you shoot them because you're good shooters, so it's self-fulfilling. But 10 of the 15 offenses in the league were above average in terms of three-point shooting, which I think the average is 36, 37% now, which is incredible. And 4 of the top 5 were in the top 10 in one way or another. So, I mean, when you look at the best, if in teams that didn't shoot the three well, generally bad offensive teams, as much as people, I've done this, kind of have alluded to our struggles in our offensive system last year, which I thought we used too many possessions late in the clock. I thought we were too post-centric for where the game's going. However, we didn't shoot the three well. We were 25th in the league in three-point shooting percentage, I think, if I'm correct. That doesn't sound right to me, but that's what Schumann's article said, unless I misread it this morning. That doesn't sound right, actually, but it is... if I'm looking it up right now because the minute I said that, it didn't sound right. That's what my notes say, but I think I may have missed something. If we didn't shoot the three well, then what are you going to do about it? No, we shot 34.4%, 25th in the league last year. And we took, 20% of our shots were threes at 23.7. We actually were, considering we're not shooting well, we actually were shooting quite a bit of them. The team that, ironically enough, who is as good a shooting three-point team as they are that don't shoot a lot is San Antonio. San Antonio is the best three-point shooting team in the league at nearly 40% for team. They only shoot 26% of their shots as threes. Now, the teams that shoot the most were Houston, New York, Phoenix, Atlanta, and Brooklyn. So they weren't highly successful, but they probably helped themselves. But the point is, on Al-Farouq Aminu and frankly on a lot of our roster right now, you got to be able to shoot, and we're not going to be able to shoot. We don't have good shooters this year either. So if we don't have good shooters in this upcoming year, I'm not sure even Quinn's offensive changes or anything like that can make a difference to make us anything better than, in the 20s offensively. We'll open the floor more, we'll spread it, we'll hopefully give some looks, do some things of that nature, get some penetration and kick, open up those looks a little bit, rather than trying to do it out of the post, where we're going to the post on players that didn't create double teams a great deal, and so therefore there weren't a lot of good three-point opportunities out of it, nor did either of them pass very well, so it didn't create a lot of good three-point opportunities out of it. However, if you can't knock down the shots, you can't knock down the shots. Interesting little, a lot of questions yesterday about Kanter and the comments by the Turkish coach. I've looked into this a little bit. I've got to be a little careful here. There's some games going. Nothing. Here's what I would tell you. Nothing is different about Kanter's injury surgery than was expected or done before. Okay? Don't worry. There's politics of national team and this and that and expectations and player and this. All these things are impacting what's taking place right now with these public comments. But the behind-the-scenes situation is exactly as it was reported from the very beginning, which was not particularly evasive. Surgery, and he is not playing with the World Cup team. So that's where it stands. I don't know how far I can get into that. Speaking of FIBA World Cup, though, interesting, the Washington Wizards did not release Kevin Seraphin, France's starting center. Alex Ajinka, their 7'2" backup center, is not with the team as his wife's about to give birth, which I think means that Rudy Gobert could get some real rotation minutes for France in these playoffs, which it would be fabulous. I mean, this is a bunch of really good things happening in the offseason for the Jazz. Dante Exum, it's fun because he gets written up in every single publication across the world or through Australia or wherever else in the sportsfan.com.au had an article where he just talked about this progression that he sees himself going through. He went through all the physical training, then he played kind of a semi-pro summer league. Now he's going to go to World Cup, and then he gets ready for the NBA season, and he sees this as a really nice progression to kind of get him ready for the NBA season. Trey Burke getting the opportunity to go down and play with the elite team is good because I think it exposes Trey to the best in the world and probably what it takes to be where Trey talks about going. And I'm not sure that guys actually know what that is. I think, in fairness to Trey, I don't know how he would be. He would know those kind of things and what it is about him and what it is about the league that has to happen. For him to become that player. This is probably good exposure to him. The only thing I would say is talking to Gordon from years past, you really practice fodder. That's what he's going down there to be practice fodder. So play anytime they do something right, they stop the play. Everything's based on the elite team. So Gordon found it a very frustrating way to play the game of basketball when he was there. Interesting thought for you. I don't know how much value to put into this, but just kind of chew this around. How much does the fact for future players, and maybe it doesn't matter at all, that Utah said that they were going to match Gordon Hayward throughout the whole process and then matched him, compared to Houston, who said they're going to match Chandler Parsons throughout the whole process and then said, well, actually, we view our players as assets. We couldn't trade him, so therefore we are not going to match him. Does that hurt Houston at all? Does that help Utah at all that they stuck to their... I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that. Interesting little note out of the Sterling trial that the bid by Steve Ballmer to the Olympics went public. The book was called Project Claret, as to not give away what was going on. $26 million from their local TV contract the Clippers get. $24 million in additional team revenue. And the Clippers then also are projected to receive $62 million in ticket sales. And the project 62 million in ticket sales. Unless our world has changed, that's close to our. Oh no! I'm totally wrong on that. Unless the Clippers, this is where this league is tough for teams like us. If I'm right, our max, if we sell out everything and max our ticket sales, this might be old information. We're around 30 million in Utah. The Clippers ticket sales are 62 million in revenue. The Lakers are probably 100. That's a hard jump, right? There's a bunch of other equalizers here, but when you start looking at these numbers and realize that, they're getting 30 to 40 million more in ticket revenue than we are. That's a terribly run organization too. They're 26 million in local cable contract. I don't know what our TV deal is. I'd be surprised if it's 1/5 of that. I don't know. They get an additional 24 million in team revenues. I don't know what that is. They get 52.7 from the league in shared national revenue. We get that too. So that number is the same for the Jazz. And so the Clippers revenue is somewhere around 100 million. I don't know what our revenue numbers are, but you just kind of can look at this, and if some of these things are close, and I don't know what the other 24 million are, but we're probably maxing on a good year. If everything goes right and we nail everything, we may be maxing at 70, and they're at 100. Makes it really different when teams are signing players and everything of that sort. So I thought that was a worthwhile deal. There is a continued murmur around the league that when the Sterling thing is done and they start toward the TV contract, that it could lead to a 2-team expansion. Could I make a strong vote for Seattle and Vancouver? I don't know whether Vancouver ever will be back in the game, but there is a strong vote to a 2-team expansion. Still, the only thought, having just gone through free agency, to a 2-team expansion is, really? I mean, that just means more max contracts, and it's probably good for the players too. But, when Chandler Parsons and Gordon Hayward are getting maxed, we clearly have a lack of talent in certain areas in this league. To go to 32 teams seems stunning. Final one today. Other than the news report, did you see the Happy Valley's only moderately happy? There was some news report that came out about the happiest cities in America. New York was the least happy. So just be aware of that when Jazz blogger Dan Clayton suddenly starts becoming a mean, awful person from living out there. But Happy Valley came only just a slight notch Provorm above happy. So it's only moderately Happy Valley, not Happy Valley. Final one, I thought I kind of didn't realize that there was this little hornet's nest going on around the Exum Trey thing. I'm lost on this discussion from everybody, but I guess we just do this. Okay, so this is good for everybody. It would be bad if Dante got drafted and we had nobody else to play the position and he just got thrown out there and got murdered. It would be bad if for the second straight year Trey just kind of could walk in and get everything done without worrying about his position on the team or feeling as though anyone's pushing him. So all of these scenarios are good. Over time, is there a chance that they both might not match? Yeah, there's a chance Favors and Kanter might not match. There's a chance that Alec and Gordon don't match. There's a chance that Rodney and we're forming a team. We have 8 players, 25 or under. It's unlikely that all of them are going to be on this roster in 3 years. That's just the reality of what we're doing. We're developing players. We're watching how they mature. We're trying to put them in circumstances where they can develop and are pushed, and see how they react so that we can then use them as future pieces of our franchise, both as for some of them as players and for some as assets. So I see nothing negative at all about the fact that both Trey Burke and Dante Exum could possibly both want the ball in their hands. Dante's size at 6'6" also allows for you to have great flexibility of who's playing next to him. You can go super long and have Gordon play the 2, and you can go small with Trey playing the other guard, and then Dante guards the 2. And maybe depending on the night and who you're playing, if you're playing Jose Calderon, then maybe you probably play Dante at the 1 more so he doesn't have to guard. And if you're playing Russell Westbrook, not that Trey can really handle, but you don't want Dante to get killed, then you move him over on Anthony Morrow. Non-issue. Surprised when I found out that it was an issue. But we're bored and it's the summer, so we can come up with stupid stuff. All right, that is it. That is tip-off. Have a nice Pioneer Day. I'll talk to you Monday.